So switched it up a little bit. I got a different lens on the camera. Got different microphone too. So I'm going to give a listen. I got a headphone in just to see how the audio is here. I gotta wait till it goes live and give it. But then we are going to talk about whether you're just track bashing or oh yeah, sounds good. So we're trying this with a new mic so that hopefully the audio doesn't cut in and out like it might. All right, so far it sounds good to me. Um, there might be a little bit more of an echo in here tonight just because of the difference in the microphone. I got to get some more stuff in this room to kind of cancel that out. It's a 10 by 10 room. It's all paneling. So, yeah, I did skip the sweatshirt because it is a lot toastier in here tonight. So, yeah. One other thing that I have to mention, it's going to sound really odd, but my glasses are currently broken and this lens is just kind of sat in there. It's broke up here. So if at some point I mess with my face and touch my glasses wrong, I might have to chase that lens. Just so everybody is aware of that. um, because we're trying the new microphone and I've had a few other issues with just getting stuff set up here tonight because I have to run my little mixer deal with through all this. Hence why we're as late as we are and why I don't have a guest. I just wanted to make sure everything was working properly and working good and stuff like that before I brought somebody else in. We are working on Thursday having an actual guest, but I thought we could talk about some controversial stuff tonight to make up. So, yeah, so Thursday should have a guest, should be good to go from there. So, yeah. Also, cameras over there, computers over here. See me looking over here just because trying to read comments. So otherwise, I have to stare at the camera. It's something I got to work on. But all right, one other thing, real quick, and this is going to be kind of a quick announcement. We'll go into more detail on it later. I'll probably make a standalone video for it. I actually am going to be a part of something compact related for a whole complete different content channel thing. So Horsepower Happenings is a podcast that is done by a couple of guys here from Michigan, Zach Heiser and oh man, my mind literally just went blank on the other person's name. I feel really dumb for that. I had this all worked out in my head before. But it's primarily like a late model based V8 based podcast. They do it every week. They just started up, but Zach reached out to me and they want to do a front wheel drive segment. And so they thought Rich France. There we go. I don't know why I want to say Kyle France. Yes, Rich France. I knew France, but I could. Okay, there you go. But they have asked me to do a front wheel drive segment for them. And so I'm going to. It's going to be once a month right now. It's going to be 10, 15 minutes long. And yeah, I basically have full control over it. I get to pick the guest. I get to talk to somebody for a little bit. Yeah, so we're going to be able to promote front wheel discussion a little bit there. Just a brief mention. And the way it looks like with talking with Zach is I'll actually be able to film that segment if my guest wants to. And it is something that we might be able to post later on front wheel discussion. And my thought is that what I might do is take that little segment, add something about Horsepower Happenings, and put it on the page a little bit later, something. I don't know exactly. Talking with Zach, it sounds like this week, this coming week, next week, might be the first segment, but it might just be me talking to them for a minute, just kind of introduce myself, who I am, what I do, and that sort of thing. So, but we are going to collaborate, and I'm going to be doing a segment about compacts on Horsepower Happening. So I'll make kind of an actual announcement thing. I just wanted to throw that out there. Yeah, I thought that's pretty cool. So you'll notice the Daytona 500 was yesterday. Yeah. I don't know if you guys are the same as me, but my Facebook is lit up with comments about the Daytona 500 and about racetracks are releasing rules and racetracks are releasing schedules. And there's been some racing going on lately. And this is something that I've talked about before. It's something that I'll talk about again in the future. It's something that I feel strongly about. And it's how any time you talk negatively about a series or a track or a race or anything like that, hate racing and you are just track bashing. And what you ought to just go do something else if you hate that much. And yeah, um, I am going to give you guys my honest, unbridled opinion for a moment here. 80% of what I see that I know the story of, okay, um, is just constructive criticism or actual legitimate concerns, just not necessarily phrased the best way. It's warranted. It might be hard to hear for some people. Now, that goes for racers as well. This isn't just I'm not coming on here tonight to attack tracks and attack series or attack promoters. Okay. Um that's not what this is about. It's a big part of it, okay? But I don't have it out for any promoters. I don't have it out for any tracks or anything like that. Okay? Because I see this exact same thing happen with racers. Okay. Um the Daytona 500, the end of it. Now, I will be honest with you guys and gals. I was actually working on stuff and I didn't watch any of the Daytona 500 except for clips. Um, I didn't care that much. I don't care that much about NASCAR. Okay. Um, but so I did watch the ending multiple times from multiple angles. Um, and the biggest thing that I seen is so many people. Well, it's not. I can't comment on whether it was a good or bad 500. I cannot comment on whether it was the worst 500 I've ever seen or so boring. I could tell you I watched some of the wrecks. Okay, so I'm not going to comment on the overall race, right? But the ending. By the way, hit the like button if you're watching. The ending. Okay, Ross Chastain goes to the middle, tries to go underneath. I mean, white flag lap. He's trying to go for the win. Um, Austin Cindric, forget who was behind him, bumps. They were bumping a little bit before Ross came down, and it just ended up Cindric and Chastain spin. Okay. Chastain manages to stay on the apron, doesn't go off and all that. But Cindric turned and was headed back up the track. And when he headed back up the track, this is what NASCAR has said, is that was when they decided, hey, we got to throw the yellow. Okay. And that's what happened. And NASCAR said at the time when we decided to throw the yellow, blah, 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 William Byron is in the lead. 24. Not 48. Right. And the amount of people I've seen on my Facebook that went crazy because the 48 was ahead and because of this and because of that. I get it. Okay. The amount of people, and Kyle says this, I just hate that races can still end under caution. I don't disagree. I even if it's a one race exemption, I think the Daytona 500 should end under green. It could be a green, white checkered. It could be a green checkered. Imagine that. They get one lap, right? They don't get two. They don't get a white flag. They get a green and white at the same time. Like they get one lap. It could be kind of cool, right? But so many people On my Facebook feed, I got 2,500 or so friends on Facebook. I'd say 2,250 of those are racing related. Okay. So my Facebook feed is just filled with racing stuff constantly. What Facebook will allow me to see between all the advertisements. And so many people just so quickly jump out to just bash what's going on. Oh, they can't pull out of their head. You know, if Orange Chastain is always wrecking everybody. Most of what I seen was just guys being negative, just throwing their concern. Now, NASCAR, those guys can take it. Okay. Like, they can take it. Even if it is just 150,000 people complaining, NASCAR's not hurting. Okay. Another good example of a lot of people just up in arms and legitimately, in my opinion, bashing is the Clash. I've seen so many people talking about that. And again, I didn't watch any of the Clash. Okay. I didn't watch a single lap of it. But I can tell you that I was in LA before that race. Like, I literally was there and flew out like that weekend. Okay. I talked to people in LA who were not NASCAR people. When I was at MPMC, I was talking to people who were not NASCAR people, who are not stock car people, that were genuinely excited about that race. They were curious what I thought about that race, what, you know, stuff like that. Like, they're interested in the race at the Coliseum. People in LA wanted to go to that race. I'm not going to comment on attendance and all of that because there was other factors. Same thing with Daytona, there's other factors. Okay. The amount of people that I saw that were just trashing it because it's not what they're used to. It's not the good old days, and it's not this, and it's not what it's not. Clash being in LA at the Coliseum is not for the diehard NASCAR fans. It's not for the guys who grew up watching Lee Petty and then Kyle Petty and then Richard Petty. Like, that's not who it's for. That's why the entertainment that they have isn't the people that you guys want to listen to. Okay. That race is to try to get other people to watch. You have there's 45 NASCAR races a year. One of them can be for other people. Okay. Right. Now, a lot of what I see as far as the local level, okay, it is so much that people could, if they could explain what they are feeling and what is going on better, they had a better command of the English language. And I don't want to, I don't want this to come across as me trying to say that, listen, if you guys weren't so stupid, you could talk better. Okay. That's not it. All right. There are a few people who are absolute wordsmiths. Okay. I've known a few that it takes a while for people to see the kind of snake they are because of how good they are with words, right? The majority of people, myself included, for the most part, it's really hard to convey, especially negative emotions, in a way that doesn't just come across as, God, I hate everything and I hate them and they're stupid. Okay. I struggle so hard with that. Okay. That's why I oftentimes, if I say anything, especially here on the show, it's usually a few days later, a week later, something. Okay. Gives me really the time to think about it. If you are the kind of guy who you get door slammed in a heat race, and the first thing you do when you get back, you get out of the car and you run to wherever your phone is, you grab it and you open Facebook, you just start telling everybody about how stupid the other person is, probably bashing the track. If I'm gonna use an experience that I've had. I'm gonna mix 2 or 3 experiences I've had together at different tracks running for different people as an example here. Okay, this has happened to me. If I am at a racetrack and it's advertised X pay for Y laps, and there's no mention of car count, and there's no mention of any other factors. It's just X for Y, or X amount of car, or X dollars, Y laps. Okay. And then I show up, and they announced at the drivers' meeting that, well, we don't have enough cars. Like, okay, so we're gonna cut pay, but you get to keep the laps. You know what? I'm already here. We're gonna run. And then I go out and I race, and I'm watching somebody drive through 2, 3, 4 cars and cause 2 cautions, blatantly cause 2 cautions. And the other cars involved get punished, but they don't. And then, and it's known that, their brother-in-law is the tech man, or their sister's, best friend is a race director. There's some relationship to them, to somebody in power at the track, or they just go drinking every weekend with the. Okay, all 3 of those are made up examples. But the driver that's driving through people has a known affiliation, and so they don't get punished. And then I finish a race and I go through tech, and the guy who wins is the guy who has that affiliation, and they barely even look under the hood. But then they get to my car and they expect me to tear the cylinder head off the thing. And then I say, nah, just DQ me. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. You can DQ me if you want, but you didn't make him. I'm not doing that. If you have to take the spot and the money, that's fine. Right. And then I've got another team, or some low level employee at the track get in my face, start yelling at me, screaming at me, trying to start stuff. Or as we're getting ready to leave, we're trying to pack stuff up. Same deal, where they're coming over and they're saying stuff, trying to start something. Okay. And I leave and I go home. Or another example, okay, is I go to a racetrack for a big show, and say it's supposed to be a 2-day show. And the first day, there's no rain, there's no nothing, but it's like 2 a.m. before they finish up that show. And the next day, we start an hour and a half, 2 hours late. They're, every class out there is wrecking. They've got 7 cautions in every heat race and 10 cautions in every feature. Every race is taking 2 hours, and there's 1 track truck to clean up messes, and there's 1 wrecker. And it's 4 a.m. by the time we're done racing, right? So these are 2 examples. All of that is a combination of things that I have experienced racing, or very close to being believable, to it. If those things all happen, and I go home and I sleep on it, wake up the next day, and I make a post that's, on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever you want to use. Okay. And I go on and I make a post that's basically, man, I drove to Met Speedway, and they were advertising 1,000 to win for 50 laps. And I get there, and then the drivers' meeting, they say it's going to be 250 to win because they didn't get 100 cars. And so, I decided to race anyway, and there's some dudes just tearing everybody all to hell. Nothing happens to them. And then in tech, I finished 3rd, and they want to tear me down to the short block. But the guy who wrecked everybody, like, they barely even looked under his hood, so I refuse the DQ, and I'm getting yelled at and screamed at, and I leave. Like, Man, I'm gonna tell you guys and gals, I'm not sure I'd go race there again. Right? Whew. I make a pose like that, or in the second instance where all this is happening, and I make a post on Facebook during the event. Say it's the second night, and I'm like, it's 11 o'clock, and we still have 6 features to go. Like, could we do something about this? This is getting crazy, right? Neither of those things are track bashing, and I don't care who wants to argue that with me. They're not. If I go to a racetrack and they're cutting pay for an unadvertised reason, and they have somebody driving through everybody, and then tech is so visibly unfair that anyone could see it's unfair, and then I've got people yelling at me. Now, people could ask for the other side of the story. Like, they absolutely could. They could say, "Oh, I know Todd. There's no chance that he was calm throughout that whole situation. I guarantee you, Todd was trying to fight the tech guy right there." Okay, I haven't, but yeah, there might be a second side to that story, right? But if the second side of that story is, well, yeah, I mean, we didn't go, you didn't do your part to advertise and get cars there, and when you went into tech, you were upset and this and that. And it was very obvious that you were being mean to so and so, and well, Todd didn't wreck everybody. He only, he was involved in 3 cautions, but none of them were his fault. And if the other side of the story basically corroborates what I'm saying, it's not track bashing. I'm sorry, it's not. I keep like leaning this way because the microphone's over there, and subconsciously I want to do that. So I'm just putting this in front of my logo so that I can do that a little bit. Okay. It's not track bashing if those things happen. I've been at a racetrack for a previous owner. It was Springport Motor Speedway for like 6 owners ago. Okay. That we got done racing at like 11, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning. And you've got a group of guys trying to around the back of this building, trying to make a secret deal with the promoter so they get paid. Meanwhile, the pay window isn't open, and everybody on the property hasn't received a dime. Okay. That has literally happened. I've been there for that. That was that owner. That owner opening night was supposed to be $2,000 to win for late models. And at the pay window, he told the guy that won there wasn't enough people in the grandstands. Here's $800. Okay. That's not me making stuff up. That literally happened. There are people in the chat who can tell you that actually happened. Look, I don't even know if the dude's involved in racing in any capacity. It was Jerry Rabbers at Springport many owners ago. Has absolutely nothing to do with Springport today, the Ritter family. Absolutely nothing to do with them. Jerry screwed a lot of people that year. Okay. A lot of people that year. And he did about half a year and disappeared. I raced for him and got bad checks. I announced for him and told him that unless he paid me cash for the check that had bounced the previous week, I wasn't going to be his announcer for that night, which, by the way, the reason I was the announcer that night is because he didn't pay the previous announcer, right? So that's happened. We didn't have Facebook as much back then. That was 2009. Was it 09? I want to say it was 2009. Okay. Facebook wasn't as big back then, but people were still talking about it on Facebook, right? If that happened today and I comment on that, if I talk about that, I'm not bashing Springport. I'm telling it is being honest and truthful. It's just a very negative situation. Okay. There was a 10,000 to win grocery getter enduro that happened at Bear Field. The front wheel drive guy that won it. Chip Heinzelman, I believe. Never got paid for that. Guy who didn't pay him has this big old thing that everybody that they talked about it. Every time they talk about, well, he's just bashing. No, that guy didn't pay. Like, if negative things are actually happening, it's not track bashing. Sorry. Like, there's some things I'm not going to talk about that I could, that are really negative things that have happened to me at racetracks. I've been at racetracks waiting to get paid until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and that supposedly never happened. Ooh, we've never done that. Really? Because I was there. I have 10 other guys who were there. I've been threatened to be kicked out by a county sheriff at a racetrack when it's like, hey man, we're sorry, we're waiting to get paid. Like, I've got a lot of that kind of stuff I can talk about. I don't. I'm not going to. A lot of it would come across as bashing because that's not how things are now. With, like, if that exact same thing happened right now, this coming season, like, it would be different. But back then, I would have had every right to talk about it and to criticize it. It actually happened. Now, if a racetrack is, as Jim says, I heard a guy's winning last year, getting passes the track instead of the purse. I just read where there was a track that had an advertised like championship payout and for the championship purse, and like and this is what I remember reading. So this is a fake scenario because I could be wrong in how I'm remembering this. Okay. But what I remember posted was this track had said it was going to be a 500 to win points fund, and they canceled the banquet, and then they gave a 500. They gave like a season pass to the driver, but the track has either been sold or under new management or isn't going to open. Like, if you comment that and you just say that, that's not track bashing. That's not bashing. Now, where I see guys really screw this up, and they're actually bashing tracks or bashing drivers or they're bashing. I've seen guys who can't drive, for lack of a better explanation. They can't drive, not very well. They go somewhere, whether it's the same racetrack they've been going to, or they go somewhere new, or they just race with a different group of guys, and they go out there and they hit everything but the lottery, right? And they get black flagged for it, and then they get lippy or mouthy with track officials, and then they get kicked out, and they get told not to come back. I've seen that happen. Like, I've seen where somebody's posted something on Facebook, and I reach out to somebody because it's a track I either know, or I know somebody who races there, or doing what I do, I got some connections, I can talk to some people. Okay, I reach out to somebody, I'm like, hey, what happened here? And I've literally had somebody send me a video of that person going bananas, just like going apeshit at a racetrack, trying to fight people, trying to fight a county sheriff, like doing some really bad black eye to the sport. Cannot believe they would ever represent themselves that way type of stuff. But their post on Facebook was how so everybody was driving through them, and they finally stood up for themselves, and so they, all these people ganged up on them and blah, blah, blah. If you are the kind of guy getting in a fight every weekend, or running into somebody every weekend, or somebody's running into you every weekend, if you've been asked not to come back to a couple different tracks, the other side of the story might be more true. Like, you guys need to have yourself a friend or an enemy that you talk to who is willing to tell you screwed up. Like, you got to have somebody like that. The amount of people that I've seen in this sport who, that's so-and-so drive right through them and you can't, How did his left rear bumper drive through your right front bumper when you've never been beside him? Like, no, your guy just flat drove through that other guy. he absolutely should be going to the back. There's no mirrors, there's no spotters. He didn't know he was bumper to bumper with him. Like, okay. If you don't have someone when you come in the pits that's like, dude, you screwed up. Like, you drove straight through him. If you have 10 people around you and every one of them is like, oh no, dude, you're the best ever. And he just, that was him. And that was, like, even if you have one dude who's like, that could have went either way, man. Right? I have multiple of them. I got multiple people like that. Buddy Mike, my best friend John, they like me. They like seeing me do well. They also really like being able to tell me when I screw up. And I honestly believe both of them I can go to and I can say, how did you see that situation? And they are going to tell me how they saw the situation from their angle, whether it was on me or not on me. Okay. 100%. And I can trust that if they saw it as me driving through someone, that they're going to tell me and they won't hold back. Dude, you smoked it in there. Wasn't your line. You didn't hit the brakes. You drove right through that guy. Right? But if I'm going down the front stretch and I'm wheel to wheel with somebody and they hook down at the start finish line and I hit the brakes and they go through the infield, they're going to tell me that's what they saw. If that's what they saw, right? If you don't have somebody that'll do that and you are constantly getting into trouble on the racetrack, if every week, well, so-and-so drove through me and so-and-so drove through me and so-and-so cut me off and so-and-so chopped me and so-and-so chopped me and so-and-so's a terrible driver and so-and-some is them. And so if you have an issue with everybody on the racetrack and nobody else has any issues with everybody else, it's probably you. Statistically speaking, half of you are probably below average drivers, statistically speaking. Okay. That's why they call it average, right? It's the average. This is the level that's the average of people, which not everybody is better than average, or the average would be up here. The average is here. That means half of the people are up here and half of the people are down here. That's what makes the average that line. So statistically speaking, half of you aren't that good. Now that's okay. I suck sometimes, quite often. I've been lapped. I've had to pull off, right? Broken. I've hit people. I've chopped a few guys, drove into a few guys. It's happened. I have been a below average driver. You're not stuck below average. You can be average or better, okay? It happens sometimes. But if you're the kind of driver who is constantly involved in on-track incidences, and it's always with different people, and it's always different situations, it might actually be time for you to consider that it's not everyone else you're racing with, okay? And I'm seeing some of your guys' comments. Love you, Will. Right? It is absolutely okay to admit tonight's not my night. I need to back it off a little bit. It's absolutely okay to admit, hey, I don't have a top 10 car. I'm shooting for 11th or better, or, I'm shooting for 11. Okay. It's okay to admit that you need some driving advice. It's okay to admit that kind of stuff. Right. I have rivals in this sport. I've talked shit about some other drivers before. think I've accidentally done it to their face once or twice. I've got guys I don't like very much. I've got guys that I personally don't think could drive a nail in a snowman's ass, right? But I know that if I go out and me and that driver get into an incident, I have one driver who is not in the chat. I doubt they ever watch any of my stuff. I have one driver. I've never seen them comment on anything I've ever done. I've never seen them like anything I've ever done. So, okay. Who I've raced against a few times. And almost every time I would get a run on them, they would change their driving style. And you can see it in video. And I would get a run on them, and we weren't even at the flag stand at a very long straightaway track. And all of a sudden, they're headed towards the bottom of the corner. And if you're pushing out and I get up next to you and you can see my wheel doesn't move, suddenly you go a lane and a half, might go across into the infield. And if the racetrack says that you're at fault 3 times out of the 3 times it happened, right? Like me and that driver, if we get into an incident, I'm fairly confident in my decision at the time. I'm going to stay that confident. Okay. But if I went out and I'm going to put myself in someone else's shoes. I've had this conversation with somebody. I'm not going to give more details than this because I'm not trying to call anybody out. But I had a driver one time who was talking to me that, man, so-and-so can't drive. Every time I try to pass them, they're always hitting me. And, that kind of sucks. Yeah, and so-and-so, like, I wish they could drive better because every time I try to go under them, they chop me. And as we were standing there, like, they listed off 8 drivers and how terrible those 8 drivers were and how they almost always run into this person. Almost every single time. Okay. And I had to stop them, and I was like, I've talked to most of those people before, and we've kind of talked about the same sort of thing. And like, the funny thing is that they don't have an issue with any of those other people. None of those other drivers say how anybody else hits them or they get hit or they hit those drivers. You're the common denominator in all this. Like, it might not be everybody else. And that driver stood there, looked me dead in the eye, told me, yeah, sure. I'm pretty sure I would know if I was a bad driver. They really need to get on my level. One of their things was, you have no idea what it's like to drive against so-and-so. Yeah, I do. I raced with them for the first 2 full seasons they ran racing. And while, yeah, they don't run the absolute best line, like, they're consistent. Like, they do the same small thing every corner of every lap. You're the only person that has an issue with them and runs into them. And when I raced against them, their very first year as a rookie, they would stay on the bottom until they went into the corner, and then they'd almost hit the wall, and then they'd go right back down. Like, they were not a good driver their first year, and I never touched them. I never had a single issue with them. And I lapped them multiple times. Like, I'd practically lap them in a heat race. So I have raced against them, and I never hit them. Oh, well, that's they do with our. Okay. If you've got like 8 or 9 people that you're having issues with, and they don't have issues with each other, and you are a common denominator in all of those wrecks, it might be you. Okay? Now, fear not, I have a way you can actually figure out if it was you or not. This is a pretty simple way to do it, too. Nowadays, most people have these things look sort of like this, the cell phone. Okay. And you'll find that a lot of people are using those to film races, probably the ones you're involved with. Find one of those videos and post it on the internet in a popular place like front wheel drive racing Southern style, or post it in there and just say, hey, or have a buddy of yours post it and ask, hey, what do you guys think happened here? Who do you think is at fault? Okay. Now, if 85 out of 100 comments say it was you, it's probably not the other guy. If it's 50-50, it could be seen either way. If it's 85% saying it's the other guy, it was probably the other guy. Okay. Like, it's the same thing as your welding. If you're like, I'm the best welder, but I got to shut this heater off. Just a second. I brought me a stick so that I could actually turn the heater off. Actually, let me try to turn it. By the way, Will's joking around. And since Will's in here, I can't wait to post you taking me out. Is that picture still on your profile? You're still your profile picture, Will? The one where you said I was taking you out? Now, the fun part about that is that Will and I are good now, I think. Will and I are good now. We weren't always good. And the first time Will beat me was the night I was having issues. And in the heat race, we got together. And after the fact, a while after the fact, Will posts a picture. I hit him. I got him in the right rear. Okay. But I was on the brakes, trying not to hit him. But the guy outside of me, who was a rookie or in his second year, was coming out of the corner pushing real hard, had the wheels cranked. And when they caught, he jerked down, he caught me. That was kind of I was going to meet in that sandwich, right? Yeah. Will posts it. And of course, 2 or 3 guys who really don't like me had to comment on it or have made comments, maybe not specifically on it. So me, being the smart ass I am sometimes, I posted the clip of that wreck. I'm like, here is me intentionally trying to take somebody out. You can tell by the way I steer away from them, right? Now, his picture sure could have looked like I was trying to wipe him out. On video, kind of proved wasn't, right? Have I ever had Will try to come at me after that on the racetrack? Not that I know of. He at least wasn't close enough that he could, right? Has Will beat me since then? Yeah, he's in a better car now, right? Like I said, are Will and I good? I think so. He's a subscriber. He's won some stuff. Okay. So, no harm, no foul, right? Mr. Fireball Neil. So, Fireball Neil and I, Mr. Neil's brother and I have had some issues, had some things go on. Couple things. Incident with his brother was one of the few times that I've went online and I've actually said some shit. I deleted it fairly after that. Okay. But I went to a race at Galesburg and I just drove right into the side of Mr. Neil there of a Fireball. Willie. Yes. Okay. Went into turn 1 at Galesburg and I blasted him in the left rear. And I mean, It was wheel to wheel, my right front to his left rear. I in no way had the spot. None at all. Blasted him right out of the way. Got under him, stayed there. He went back quick enough that I knew what was about to happen. We went into turn 3. I put my head on the back of my seat because I knew what was coming. And he blasted me right square in the bumper. Rightfully so. And that was that. Continued the race. He didn't keep coming after me, nothing like that. Okay. I get done with that race. And there's not a whole lot of love lost with the people I'm with and with that family. Okay. I will fully admit that, at least previously. Okay. So I come pulling in, and a few people, they seen Willie blast me. Okay. Blast me. And they were fired up. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, nope, stop. I deserve that. And they're like, what? And I'm like, you didn't see me hit him in turn 1? And they're like, well, no. And I'm like, what happened was I was getting a run on him. I didn't have the run complete. Got chased down the track a little bit. I unknowingly had put my left front into the grass. When I got on the brakes to try to avoid hitting him, because I didn't have the spot, I didn't slow down. And I drove right into him. 100% my fault. And I'm like, and I knew what he was about to do afterwards, and he should have done it, and I would have done the exact same thing. So, nope. And I grabbed my brother-in-law, who was friends with the family, and I said, hey, will you come with me so I can go apologize? And of course, my brother-in-law is like, you definitely should go apologize because you drove through him. And I'm like, I know I drove through him. I need to go apologize. So it was just me and it was just him. And we start walking over there because the group I was with and the group they're with, fairly large groups. So I didn't want the groups. Okay. So it's just me. I'm walking over there and I say, hey, like as I'm walking over there, guy on the record guy, and I don't remember who the record guy was, comes pulling up and is like, what's going on? I'm like, headed over because they knew about the history, and I'm like, I'm headed over there to apologize. I'm like, I hit him and want to apologize for it. And he's like, I'm gonna go over there and tell him you're coming to peace. And so he flew over there and said, hey, like he's coming over here to talk to you, like he's coming to peace, like just And as I got closer, how my group was wound up that he had hit me, his group was wound up that I hit him. Okay. So I could tell that. So he came out to meet me a little bit, and I went to meet him, and he's like, dude, what the fuck? And I said, nope. Like, that was 100% my bad, man. I'm sorry. I explained. I screwed up. I got down a little bit. I hit the brakes and I couldn't stop, and I drove into you, man. I'm sorry. Like, this is why I let you gather it up and that. And he's like, well, I didn't know. Like, I just, all of a sudden I'm sideways and I look and it's you. And he's like, so I had to get you. And I'm like, no, dude, you're 100%. Like, you got me square. It's all good, man. Like, you and I wanted to come down because I know, me and your brother have some stuff. However, you and I don't have stuff. So I want to explain that. And I'm sorry. I drove into you. My bad. Right. And so, yeah, we apologized. Walked down there. I screwed up, stepped on it hard, drove right through him. Right. But there's a lot of history. Now, I've never gotten an apology for the stuff that happened otherwise. Or that with the other, I'm just saying. So, but all right, Will says this is his profile picture now. So let me open up Facebook here, because I bet I can find my video just to show you guys. Okay. The first thing that literally pops up is Will Slaughter updated his profile picture. Oh, Monica, trying to start stuff. With a comment of, is that Todd Metz trying to take you out? All right, so let's open this in a different picture or in a different tab so I can share it with you guys. Now, this is the kind of stuff, heat of the moment, that day stuff. A few of the guys that Will was with still to this day do not care for me very much, at least as far as I know. Okay. So yeah, they're going to see an incident like this and they're going to say, Dude, he was out to get you. He was taking you out, right? Get it. I'd have thought that. I get it, right? Things like that happen. Now, do I still think he was bashing me? No. It's all good. Videos of me. Okay, I need the door video. Which the fun thing is, I can actually play a video of in a Walt's World. It's me giving him props. All right, let's see if I can open this in a tab. I think we'll just go full screen. So, all right. Here. It's all good. All right, present. Let's share screen. Tab. All right, so here's the picture, right? If you see this picture, and here, don't worry, I'll get it for you. Down. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's the picture. Will's very obviously headed up the racetrack. My nose is poked in there, right? Yeah, 100%. What it looks like. Now, I don't know if we can zoom in some. Okay, we can zoom in here a little bit even. All right, zoom in. See? Okay. Now, you also notice my left rear is like way flat. Okay, just saying. Just saying. Okay. Now we're gonna stop sharing that one. All right. Then we will share this one. Now here's the video. So this is my point of view. This is my in-car camera from the same incident. Okay. My hand, turn right. Like, come out of the corner, watch the boat go, and it's too wide, the 5 suddenly comes down, I'm on the brakes, turn right. Okay. I'm looking at it just replaying, so I don't have to, like, I'm not hitting for this to replay, this is swinging by itself. But that's the video. You can clearly see I'm actively turning away from it, right? Now, I was second quick that night. That white X Integra was fast qualifier. In the feature, I managed to get out front and lost the cylinder. And at the start finish line, I shut the computer off, turned it on, let it refire going into like 1, tried to like miss wasn't gone, so I pulled off. As I was turning off the track on the backstretch is when Will passed me to go on and lead and win everything. So had it stayed on 4 cylinders, I'd have had my revenge by lapping most of the field. Instead, I was 2 weeks before, like a week before Bristol, so we had to go to Spartan the next day to practice. Figured out. So yeah. But in that incident, now Will didn't come at me. He didn't come down and try to fight me. His group didn't try to come down and fight me. Nobody tried to take anybody out after that. We didn't talk. We didn't talk that night. We didn't talk for a while. Okay. But I raced him again after that. He didn't try to take me out. I didn't try to take it. Like, nothing happened past a few words said. Okay. But his guys that were there, 100%. I was trying to take him out because I was worried I knew, oh, he was getting me. I was all this and this and this and this. Okay. So 100% my fault. Absolutely no other way than me trying to take him out. Whereas my guys were like, damn, the black car, like he shot right down into you. And yeah, and I collected Will. Right. Will didn't make that. I mean, he made like this big a deal about it. Like he didn't go off this whole big tirade about how I can't drive and everybody's trying to take him out and all this and this and this and this and this and this big, huge deal. Okay. But I've seen guys do that over an incident like that where it's a month worth of drama. Right. And even with a video showing like, hey, you know, like, yeah, here's what happened. Right. Like they'll see a video like, yeah, see, you turned right into me. Like I have literally seen guys do that. Okay. If that's the type of driver you are, if that's the type of person you are, that even with evidence contrary, man, get off Facebook. Okay. Fishing. Right. Like I've had other incidents that were 100% not my fault that track didn't see as my fault. Other people didn't see as my fault. That the racer involved agreed with me that it was this other person that caused it. And the person that I was most mad at had nothing to do with this scenario at all. It was the guy going, "Oh yeah, he did that," and you know, and because of that, you went right through me. It turns out later they admit to a mutual friend how, "Oh yeah, I knew he was there, but I figured if I chopped down, he'd give me the spot, and I didn't." Right? I've had that happen, but I saw a video, my in-car video, and I went, "Huh." And I'm glad I didn't say anything about the third guy because I was dead wrong. Like, I've seen videos where I have admitted fault because, you know what? You're right. Like, I wasn't as far up as I thought I was. Or, damn, they were far enough up. I shouldn't have went down. Like, if you can't see a video or you can't have enough racers tell you, like, if you can't get evidence of contrary to what you think or your belief, and you're going to just attack someone or a track or something for that, you're just bashing people at that point. Like, truly, right? And now I do actually have to tell you, do. Come on, man. Right? Yeah, there are certain tracks that the sun is a very valid excuse. Very valid excuse. I've finished second or third a few times at races because I wasn't willing to drive into the sun and be blinded for no reason. So yeah. Um, um, yeah, top row. Our videos are sometimes weaponized, making it where tracks no longer want us posting updates. Yeah. Um, like I've seen a few videos where top row is posted where the comment section is went kind of sideways. One of them, it was constructive criticism. But the track didn't see it that way, and some of the racers didn't see it that way. Yeah, and I hate to say that, but yeah, it was definitely an issue because of that. And now Yeah, Kalamazoo going into turn 3. Holy crap. That's really bad. Spartan, I think coming out of turn 2. Yeah, turn 1, turn 2 at Spartan. Springport is turns 2. There's a few that definitely like Springport isn't quite as bad just because Springport has so much banking that like when the sun gets to a certain point that it would blind you, like it's really quick to disappear behind like the bleachers and stuff. Um, yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, Pete. It's like coming out of turn 2, going into turn 3. Like that one, it kind of depends on what time of year it is, as to slightly, but yeah, like there are some that it's brutal, brutal. Um, Now I will tell you guys and gals too with that one. If you want to use the sun as an excuse, like if it's actually a valid excuse, okay, cool, right? However, I'll be straight up with you guys and gals. I have 2 or 3 drivers that I will never admit fault, and I will probably never accept an apology from them. And no, Will's not one of them. I've got one driver that has flat out told me, "Don't get too close to me, or we're both going to be hooked off the track." Okay, cool. If we were on track and I was passing them or they were passing me and they come up and they're like, "Hey man, sorry, I couldn't see because of the sun." Nope. I don't accept that. I don't care if I myself was getting LASIK surgery as I'm going down the backstretch of Kazoo. If that driver is the one that we made contact with, nope. I do not accept your apology. Okay. There's only like 1 or 2. Okay. Right. Most other drivers, I will give the benefit of the doubt. If you come talk to me, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Right. But I have for sure have one, definitely have a second that nope. I don't accept your apology. I don't accept your explanation. I fully believe you either completely ran out of talent or that was on purpose. To be fair, they probably think the same thing of me. So, and yeah, so I can't wear sunglasses most of the time. I do have prescription sunglasses that we try to wear, but I have a tinted visor. And the only reason my visor ever goes down, typically, if I'm not on dirt, is to use as sunglasses. And I'm going to try this year to actually, I need to order the new Zamp photochromatic one because I have one. I have a Zamp helmet. So, yeah. Yeah. So, now, if you go to a racetrack and things just don't go your way that night, right? I get it. You know, I've been there. Like, I don't have any good luck. Like, I don't have any luck. Maybe the car's bad. I get into somebody gets into me. It just wasn't a good night, right? Excuse me. If you've been there and when you're done at the end of the night, you want to just hop on Facebook and tear apart. Why don't this track never does anything and nothing ever good comes here and this racer and that racer? Like, you know, odds are you are just bashing somebody. Okay. But if I go to a racetrack and the announcer literally has to say, "I know that everything's taken forever, but you don't have to post about it on Facebook and try to make us look bad." True story. I literally looked at the person next to me and went, "They just say that?" Mind you, this was at like midnight with like 3 or 4 features left to go. Right? Like, that's not bashing. If I'm like, "Hey, so apparently we're not supposed to about how stuff is taking forever." Okay. I am not above reproach. If I say something on here and I'm wrong and I get called out on it, that's the nature of the game. If I'm at a racetrack and I do something wrong, and I get called out about it, that's the nature of the game. If I have aspirations of someday promoting an event. I have an idea for a show I want to run. Okay, like I have an idea for one. I want to do it. If I put that event on and it goes horribly, okay, talk about it, right? If I had owned if I if I own a racetrack, okay, if I'm doing bad things or bad things are happening, it's okay to talk about those things. No track, no series. I'm gonna I'm gonna say something, okay? And this is not what I typically do, okay? But I know that the people involved, I think they would be okay with this, okay? I speak very highly of Vors Compact Touring Series often, okay? If you ask me in person, I will tell you the way they do things, the group of people that they have, the organization of the events, the way they operate. I am a big fan of First Compact Touring Series. I have very little negative to say about them. Okay. But years ago, and I want to say this was 2017, 2016, maybe years ago, Steve Vore got into a wreck at IRP, like first race of the season. Okay. And wheel broke off or fell off or wasn't on. And his car was on jack stands in the pits. Somebody walked through and they took a picture of his car, of his suspension. And he had threaded body coilovers, which are ill. Okay. Steve owns the series. Steve's brother working tech. He was not the tech guy. He was working in tech. Okay. That was a black eye on VCTS. But the way they responded was Steve sat out X amount of races. Steve's brother was no longer involved with tech. He still helps when he can, but he helps with lineup. He's in no way, shape, or form involved with anything like that. Okay. Steve and Dan and that had posted that if racers thought Steve might be doing something like that again, that they were welcome to come and look at his car. He was inviting, peer review of components like that again. Okay. I don't remember why they said they were on the car. Okay. But instead of just instantly labeling person who took and posted the picture as being a hater and bashing and, well, if you love the sport or if you love the series or why negative, why blah blah blah, they took accountability. Right, that should not have been on the car. Sorry that it took so and so posting it for it to be corrected. Here's the actions that we are taking, which, by the way, were more severe than if I had showed up with those parts and got disqualified for them. Like, I could have won the race and got caught in tech afterwards with those parts. And what Steve went through was more severe than that. Okay. And I've talked about that incident with people behind the scenes, just personally. Hey, what do you think of this? Or what do you think of that? And I agree every time. That was a really bad look for Steve, right? I don't believe that Steve was trying to cheat and using his being the series owner as a way to really get one over. Okay. I don't. If you look at Steve's history in the VCTS, he usually qualifies really well. He won Bristol, I think 2018, I think the second year. Those were not on the car for Bristol, by the way. I think it was 2018 when this all happened, because I think IRP is when it happened, and then at Bristol, I think he won Bristol, but it was one of those of like, look, guys, here's the tires off. You can see we don't have these on. Okay. But like that Bristol race, even Steve wasn't the dominant car. That was the year Mark Mason went like an 18-3 and wrecked. And Gary Eaton like had taken the lead 3 or 4 times, but then his transmission broke. And like there was like 4 or 5 or 6 people who were leading or should have won that broke or something happened. And Steve managed to win that race due mostly to attrition. Okay. But Steve can qualify well, and he has a fast car, but like he's not kicking the shit out of everybody in the series. So it's pretty obvious from the outside. Yeah, there might have been something, but like he's very obviously not continuing to do this. Like it's not like he's got nitrous or a turbo and he's, or he's running no restrictor and everybody else is, right? And yeah, and it's Steve has people work on his car. Other people do stuff. And I'm not placing the blame. I don't want this to come across as a negative bashing of them. I absolutely love the way the series and Steve and Dan handled that incident. But I have seen other promoters, track, series, etc., because I've seen it more than once across more than one platform like this, where something like that has come to light. Hey, look at how unsafe this car is that was allowed to race this race. Oh, we never let that car race. Here's pictures of that car on track at this event. Here's a video of this car running the heat race at that event. Here's a picture of that car running this race in that event. Okay. Nope, didn't happen. We would never let something like that go. Here's a picture of that car with a tech sticker, or clearly going through. Like, I have seen other tracks, other series, promoters, tech officials who have been in a very, very similar, almost identical situation, who handle it completely differently. They're just bashing. You're just bashing. You're bashing this track. You're bashing the series. You're bashing this event. You're just bashing this, and it's haters like you, and it's negative people like you, and blah blah blah. No track, no series, no owner, no promoter, no racer, no one should be above reproach. I am not. That's why I try so hard to give you guys correct factual information, or I tell you when it's my opinion and why, and if it's my opinion, we can have a conversation about it. Because I am not above reproach, and I don't want to be. I don't ever want. The only time I want you guys, and this isn't that I'm above reproach on this, it's that you should do your own research and realize I am absolutely right, is things like how to mount your seatbelts. I'm not above reproach because you can absolutely look into it, but I am right. You should triple wrap your belts. These are the angles that they should be at. They should be mounted solid. Those things, I'm not wrong. But I'm not above reproach. You should hear what I say. You should analyze it. You should compare it to known factual information. If a track or a series or a promoter or a tech official or somebody at a racetrack is coming off that they are above reproach, that there is no way they would ever do this, and that's not possible, and stuff like this, like 100%, like they're most likely wrong about that situation. It's not bashing if that's not what actually happened. Like, now, well, I went to this event and this is what happened, and the promoter hates everybody, and he didn't pay anybody, and they kicked us all out, and the sheriff escorted me out because of this. Well, the other side of the story might be is that you didn't get paid because you wrecked a bunch of people, or you didn't get paid because you were being a dick and you got escorted out, but the promoter absolutely paid everybody else. Like, everybody but you was cool, right? But in that instance, yeah, the track isn't above reproach necessarily, but the driver isn't either. Like, I see so often where track will do something that's negative and people get fired up about it. Had a local track say they wanted to change the tire rules here. And they said what the tire rule is going to be. And it caused a firestorm social media, rightfully so. And a ton of people were very unhappy about it. Rightfully so. My opinion, rightfully so. I was one who was upset about it. That would have kept me from racing that track all year. Okay. But there was a small group of people. Oh, this is so good. And if you don't like this rule, you're just hating, and you're just hating on the track instead of, this is, you should try to talk to them instead. It's just, you're just hating and you're just bashing, and there's no reason for all of this. Yeah, there is. People saying that kind of stuff don't race our class, don't like our class, or they like it because now they don't have to buy tires and they have this perceived advantage, right? Then quietly came out and the proposed thing wasn't in there. It was business as usual. So obviously, all that criticism and all of that talking is heard. Now, did some of the people need to go about it the way they did? No. Internet, not everybody is going to. And I did a show on this. I talked about it. And I was able to, elaborate on why and be a little more eloquent at saying, here's why this is a negative thing. Here's why this shouldn't be the way you do it. Here's why it's affecting these guys, and here's why these guys are happy about it. And I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. And I have that capability of corporatizing the way I talk about it sometimes. Okay. But a lot of guys, they probably could if they wanted to, or they tried, but they don't want to. I don't blame them. This is a stupid rule and it fucks me. And I don't like it. And it's stupid. And whoever thought of it is probably stupid too. They're not necessarily wrong. Probably just didn't need to call somebody stupid. I this year is going to be one that I think is going to be polarizing again, because there's already rumors about our tires, of the availability and the variety, and Cobra tires might be coming around, and American Racer might be an option. DOT, there might be shortages, might not be. This year is probably going to be polarizing, especially for front wheel drive stuff. If the rules have changed, if they haven't changed, stuff like that. I'm going to ask you guys and gals, if you're watching, to take a day maybe, or just ask yourself, how can I say this? How could I say this if I worked in an office and I was talking to HR, right? You can still say something is a bad rule and it should really be evaluated, for these reasons, right? If you can ever elaborate why you think something is bad, you stand a lot better chance at actually getting people to listen to you. And standing there yelling or screaming or cursing, I'll tell you right now, if you come down to my pit I try really hard to be a level-headed person. Okay. If you have an issue with me, if something happened on the racetrack, when I was a tech guy, here's a better example. I was a tech guy for a year. Okay. I had more than one driver who came up mad at me and they wanted to yell and scream and be mad and angry. Okay. And I told them all the same thing. Only two rules. Don't yell at me. And you have to listen to what I say. I will hear you out. I will listen to everything you have to say, but you have to listen to my side of this as well. Okay. Don't yell at me. I'm here. Let's have this out. Okay. If someone comes up to me and they're instantly yelling and screaming and calling me names and cursing, I'm shutting down. I can already, I don't care what you're going to say. I don't want to listen to what you're going to say. It's you're just, I don't care at that point. Okay. And that goes, it's not even racing. It's just everything. Like if I go, I've worked customer service. I've had to deal with the public. And if the first thing someone does is come up and they're like, how stupid do you have to be to work here? How stupid do you have to be to spend money here? Right. I'm instantly shutting down. But if you come up and you're like, hey, I got an issue with this. Can we talk about it? I want to tell you why I'm mad about this. Right. Cool. And if it means you got to wait till the next time I see you so you're not trying to fist fight me or scream at me or curse at me, let's do it then. Come at me after the next feature. Come talk to me here. Right. If you can't make a post on Facebook without dropping down to these things where you're yelling and cursing and screaming, okay, calling people's names, like your point is not going to be heard. It's not people. Nobody's going to pay attention to you in the way that you think they should or you want. Okay, like if I read a post that's all just, this track is so stupid for this, and it's, the biggest bunch of dumbasses, and they need to, like, I don't even care. If you're like, man, this new tire rules really probably going to screw a bunch of people, and I don't think they took this into account. I will likely join your conversation. So, yeah, I you can do that. Think through it, right? If you guys want to ask specific questions or something, we'll do that now because Brian asked one here. Brian says, Todd, how do you address a fair weekly purse? I've been labeled negative for asking for a fair purse when the purse is the same as 1995. Of course, Craig down here, race car drivers can be the biggest whiny bitches when shit doesn't go their way. Throw a set of balls and go direct to the person you have an issue with and ask questions. And I don't disagree with you, Craig. This kind of works in with Brian's thing. Okay. 100%. I don't necessarily disagree. I know some guys like that. Okay. Part of that is it's like this tire rule thing. If the track doesn't want to listen, tech guy doesn't want to listen, motor doesn't want to listen, sometimes a bunch of people posting on Facebook is the way to be heard. So I don't disagree with you, but that goes to come to me, talk to me, don't yell at me. Let me explain myself. Okay. We'll have a conversation. I usually agree on the side of having a conversation. So that is the first thing I would ask Brian, or say is to try to have that conversation, to talk to the people who actually can do something about it. Now, weekly payouts, fair payouts are really hard to have conversations about. They really are, because racetracks feel you're probably getting paid too much. Racers feel they're probably getting paid too little. One of them is probably right. Here in Michigan, we have one racetrack who is really changing the game as far as payouts go. But they had to restructure their pay. So, and this is a positive thing for them. For Owasso Speedway this year, the A main of the front wheel drives pays $850 to win, $200 to start. if you start the A main at Owasso Speedway, you are going to get $200. Last year, B main paid, I think, 500 to win or 650 to win. It paid a lot of money to win. Okay. It paid like 150 to start. They wouldn't always have the car counts. Some other racetracks paying 400 to win, 250 to win, 50 to start. Okay. Now, that big payout this year dropped. The A main is still 850 to win, 200 to start. But the B main, way Owasso structure, and this is for all classes, not just the front wheel drives. They didn't just single front wheel drives out. This is all classes. The B main will no longer pay more than the A main to start. So start money in the A is as good as payout is going to be to win the B. So I believe it's 200 to win the B this year at Owasso. I personally, I like that because there was more than one guy directly told me to my face that they were aiming for the B main because winning second or third paid more than finishing fifth in the A or somewhere around there. And that was their whole thing, was that they were probably a top 5 car in the A, top 10 car for sure. They were purposely sandbagging to make more money. So I think racing's, I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, but my glasses are broke. So yeah, so gotta be careful. If I touch it wrong, that lens goes flying. Part of that though is that every time somebody posts how much it is for Owasso to win at 850, comments explode. I wish our track paid that, or our track should pay that, or they should pay us and they should do this. I get it. I wish every racetrack could pay 850 to win, 200 to start for the front wheel drives. It's not feasible. And I get it. Okay. But what a fair payout is going to have so many variables that it's a nuanced conversation. So trying to have that conversation can be very difficult on how you approach it. So if they post payout, Brian, and the big thing you do is just immediately go on Facebook and talk about how they're screwing us and this track isn't screwing us and everybody should go here instead. I don't know if you're doing that. I honestly don't remember anything you've posted about payout. So I'm not saying that's what you do. Okay. But if that's what happens, then that looks a lot like being negative, bashing a track. But if you can reach out and say, hey, like, payout is this, and this at these tracks. Like, could we maybe try to get here? Or, is there a reason why like pay is this for our cars compared to these tracks, right? Or even, hey, what would it take to be able to get this kind of payout? Because I don't know car count at your track class bubble, because Brian's a rear wheel drive guy. Okay. Like I don't know the money going into it, right? But it might be that a sponsor is sponsoring the other, let's say it's a 5-class track. There might be a sponsor in the other 4, and the sponsor for, say, our class isn't paying that well. Okay. Money's not as high, right? Or, hey, you guys averaged 10 cars. I can't throw out 2 times as much to win for 10 cars. If you could bring a sponsor in for a night or 2 to help offset it, and I'll even, maybe the track would come at it from $1 for dollar point. If you could get us $1,000 sponsor, we'll put up an extra 1,000 for X amount of races, blah, 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 something to that effect. Or, hey, if we had 20 cars instead of 10, we could absolutely do this payout. Maybe we switch to a car count based payout, right? And I for one am not against car count based payouts if it is advertised and followed. And I'm talking if a race car pulls in and they unload and they attempt to hit the track at any point, that counts towards a car count. You don't say, well, you had 19. No. Now, if you want to pull the whole right in writing beforehand, 20 cars must start a main, to hit this money. If 19 cars don't start the main, blah, blah, blah. If it's in writing, okay, but don't pull the 20 cars and then 21 cars show, but 19 start the A main, which you really had 19 cars. Now you can be called out on that, okay? But that conversation might have to include what does it take to get the payout here? Because P says it here, you guys have no idea the kind of money going into that track. Had it broken down to me by multiple track management, and it's insane. These other tracks just don't see that type of money. Other guys might not, Pete, but I do. I've said it from the beginning. And I want to say this. I am not bashing Owasso for any of this either. I'm headed up there this year. I didn't make it out last year. I didn't go racing. I should have went up to hang out with my buddy Mike because he was racing, won up there last year. Made the B main. They paid him every dollar. Okay. All that big money, they paid it too, right? However, Owasso has put billions into updating that track. It is the first track in, I think, 30 plus years. They fully repaved the track. They are putting in hundreds of yards of concrete, and I mean hundreds of yards of concrete for the surfaces. So they are spending. There are like the payouts alone isn't a full story. Okay. It is literally they're putting millions into that track otherwise. And their owner, Mr. Rex Wheeler Trucking, and I forget the name. They have a company that's out in California that's under the same umbrella that is importing trucks and stuff like that. Rex has a lot of money to spend. And so they can do that. These other tracks don't have the money available to them. And I'm not bashing other tracks. I'm not bashing Rex. I'm not like, none of this is me. I'm not trying to be negative in any of this. I don't want it to come across as negative. Because it is crazy what Owasso is able to do. And look, they're not just spending the money on just Owasso either. Rex and the Owasso staff, Owasso Speedway is sponsoring Bristol the last lap this year. They are like Owasso themselves are spending money to promote other racing. They have a partnership with Birch Run, I think, or they did, where they're helping to pay for some races over there to cross promote, to do some stuff like that. Like, they're not just, it's not just their track. They're spending a lot of money. Owasso Speedway, their management, Rex, they're spending a lot of money, but they're doing it in a lot of different places, in a lot of different ways. And I think it is going to be good for the sport in general in the state of Michigan with what they're doing. They are elevating a lot of things. They're doing, here's a post that they did from the construction company they have doing all this, where they just added a 30-inch drain to get all the water out of the infield because of the other construction that they're doing. They widened it out, they put a wall in, but they're installing a better catch fence all the way around. They're improving the pits. Like, the stuff that they're doing at Owasso is increasing safety, and it's increasing, it's making their track better. They're getting better exposure. But if they do well, the state of Michigan racing will do better. Some of these other tracks, they might lose some cars. Like, yeah, at 850 to win the A main, it's a lot. It's a lot. But there are a lot of guys who don't think they can win the A main. They're going to go over for that $200 start money. They're going to run the B main for that 200 to win the B main. Well, once you get past that, if I'm racing Springport and I live towards Battle Creek area, or let's say it takes me 15 minutes to get to Springport, but it takes me an hour and 15 minutes to get to Owasso. It might cost me an extra $125 to race at Owasso. And if I have a 5th place B main car at Springport or a 5th place B main car to Owasso, pay difference isn't worth me going to Owasso. Stick to Springport. A lot of our other local tracks are going to continue to do well. They're going to continue to have cars. Like, they're going to continue to have racing in Michigan is going to continue to be good. Friday night tracks, Owasso is not an issue to any Friday night track. They're not racing Fridays, right? And if anybody's saving their Friday car to go to Owasso on Saturday, they likely weren't trying to race every night Friday at that track anyway, right? Like, yeah, as Mr. Rigoni says, they have an end goal that is much bigger than weekly racing. They want big series to come there. Yeah. I want to share with you guys the pit improvements, or all the concrete going in. So this is Owasso Speedway. Okay. This is their latest picture. Wonder if I can I can't really spin. No, it's not. Okay. So I don't know if it's coming across, but and I don't know what's happening. Stuff just got a lot smaller. So this area here in the infield, you can see the racetrack, okay? But in the infield, every single bit of that is concrete is new. That's all new concrete there in the middle, okay? What they're showing in this picture is how they're expanding in the back to add more pit parking and better pit parking, okay? They are planning on adding more paved spots in here, okay? They've also, like, the wall here, they've done it better, but they completely repaved it all. They've gone through, they've improved the bathrooms, they've improved the grandstands. I believe this over here in turn 3 and 4, I don't think that's the spotter stand stuff. I believe that's some grandstands maybe, but like that's been improved. They did have a big spotter stand on the backstretch that guys were posting videos and pictures from. There is a lot that they're doing that is massive improvements, right? It's hard for other tracks to compete with the money that they're spending. I don't know of any that can really do it. But they're not spending all that money because of the race cars. Also, Rex bought that track, and it was like every other track in Michigan. The pavement was 25, 30 years old. The rest of the place was usable, nothing that great. I'd race it also the way it used to be. So like, I like the place. The track was unique. 1 and 2, you ran a different line than you did 3 and 4 because of the track shape and stuff like that. Like, I liked Owasso. I've had a lot of success over at Owasso Speedway. I liked the track. I liked it. But Rex and Wheeler Trucking and Rex Wheeler and all the stuff he's doing, the money going into this place is not because they had 500 cars and they weren't paying front wheel drive so they can afford to pave the place. They spent a lot of money that is just them spending money. I'll actually click on the construction thing here and see if they show that they actually talk about the amount of concrete, because they've been paving it a bunch. They didn't talk. So they okay. So well, I'll show you another picture here, which actually is a better picture of the on the comments and see if they actually say it. Okay, so sure, I like. So this is them adding. This is the infield. So you can kind of see the area that they're. So this area here is what they're just adding here, but you can see the figure eight starting to take shape. But then this area down here, they're forming that. The idea is they're literally going to pave this entire infield. They're going to have figure eight track added, which is going to be interesting because there's a light pole right here in the middle. Like they added a whole new lighting system as well. So it's crazy. Like the entire track's been repaved. They improved the grandstands. They've done so much there. It's insane. Just looking to see if any of these other pictures can show the other grids. So yeah, they pay a lot of money, and it's one where they they can afford to. Other racetracks can't. So yeah. And as it says, Kalamazoo's been dumping money into the track and playing to repay better super shoot. Yeah, Kalamazoo is absolutely stepping their game up too. They're under new ownership. They repaved part of the pits and stuff like that. They're supposedly repaving the track after this season. They're also adding in Spartan Speedway added a bunch of improvements. Like there are racetracks around the state of Michigan that are improving themselves as well. Like none of them are getting the money that Owasso is putting in there, but like they don't have the money behind them that Owasso does. So yeah. Now Brian does say our local track is 100 to win and 25 to start, and the rules are written for a 6K to 10K car. Now the car count is 8 to 10ish cars. Yeah, and see, 100 to win, 100 to win is it's not fair. That's some shit that's stuck back in the day. Especially 25 to start. Like, well, the other one thing I want to point out too is that Chris even set up here. Our mini outlaw class pays 75 to win and $10 to start. And then he says it costs them $100 just to get in, and other tracks pay 150 to win, but he likes the track and wants to support it. Chris, I gotta ask then, like, is that $100 what you have to pay, like what a racer would have to pay to get in, or is that just what you guys pay? Because like, and that's the kind of stuff. Being able to talk about how 100 to win and 25, when this is the kind of car they expect, that's a conversation that you want to have and you should be able to have. And you should be able to have that conversation with other people and say, hey, like, does everybody think this is fair? Like, yeah, we only get 10 cars. We average 10 cars. Would we average more? Like, are there guys who are willing to run here that aren't because of this? As Willie says, my track is 275 to win, 75 to start, and we got about 40 front wheels. Here in Michigan, 250 to 400 to win is a very typical payout. $50 to $75 to start is a very typical start money. A main payout. Okay. We do a lot of ABC. B main is usually, I think 50 to start is generally what most tracks around the state of Michigan pay. I don't know any racetrack. And again, this is me not being beyond reproach. If I'm wrong, please tell me about this. I haven't been to a racetrack that I've seen where start money here in Michigan is less than what it takes to get in. So like a single pit pass type of situation. It might not pay for 2 or 3 pit passes, but like feasibly, I could drive to the racetrack and I could at least get in and start and get my pit pass money back plus a few dollars. Like, and I could be wrong. I'll be honest. I haven't paid that much attention to payout since I have a car owner. Excuse me. But I can't think of anybody who's less than $50 to start. So yeah, for me and my wife in the car, pit pass is $100. Okay, so like is it $50 each a pit pass, or is it like $30 each plus like $40 for the car or something like that? Because I will say that too. If a racetrack is charging, like if you have to pay a certain dollar amount for your car to be entered, because I've seen that at a few tracks where it's like, I personally do not believe that your entry fee should ever be even remotely close to like start money. Like if it's $100 entry fee, it needs to be like 125 minimum that I'm going to walk away with. And I understand that like you're taking, like you're taking that money to pay. Okay. Like my $100 entry fee is to pay the purse. I get that. But if I'm paying $100 entry fee and I'm buying a $50 pit pass for one person, one car, there's no reason to start money is $50. Okay. No reason. So yeah, 30 each and 40 for the car for the class. Yeah. 75 to win, and it costs you $40 to enter your car. That's some bullshit. And that's not track bashing. That's some bullshit. Like, well, all right, Chris, how far, like, what position pays $40? If it's 75 to win, is it like 50 for second, 40 for third? Like, brother, you've got to love that track or love the people working there or owning it or something. You love them more than I've loved, I think, anything in my life. Because $10 to start, like, yeah, $10 to start for and minimum $70 for me to get in. 30. So literally the only way that you can even break even for one car and one pit pass is to win. How many cars do you get, Chris? And do they pay like that for like everything else? Like is street stocks like 100 to win, 30 to start? Like, yeah. See, that's not bashing. Like, that's not bashing at all. 75 to win, 35 for second, $10 to $10 to start. You've got to be what, $10 by fifth place? If it's 75 to 35, you're probably what, 20 and then 10? So fourth place is probably $10. No. 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 I'm not even talking. Yeah, his dad says you won't break even if you add car expenses. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking literally just you pay to get in, and you have to win to even break that even. Like, dude, Willie, it wouldn't even. Dude, Willie, you'd have to win every single race for 10 races for $50 a head. And that's assuming that you don't buy any food while you're there and it doesn't cost you to tow there and you don't work on the car literally at all and you win every race. Like, brother. Brother. 75 to win, and it costs you 70 to get in with a car. And second place pays $35. Dude. Good golly, Miss Molly. Calculate. Like, so 20 cars. Okay. 20 cars. You did say cars. I just want to check. 15 to 20. Okay, let's just do 15. So 50 cars or 15 cars at $70 a piece just for one car, and one is $1,000.50. So we do 75 plus 35. Well, hold on. Let's do 15 cars, and I'm just basing this off fourth place down. So 11 times 10 is 110 plus 35 plus 75 is a $220 purse. A $220 purse for 15 drivers. And they're making $1,050. They're making $830. Minimum. Because if you had 20 cars, you're at $1,400 and you're only adding $50 more to the purse. So you're making an extra $350 and you're only putting 50 of that into the purse. So you're making $1,100 on 20 cars. Meanwhile, you got guys like Rick Young down at Shady Bowl paying like $500 to win. I think it's $150 or $125 to start in a stock compact class. Not VORS rules or Midwest rules or SCDRA rules, like stock rules. Paying $500 to win, like $125 or $150 to start. Like, so that would be, so Chris, is that like Olga's rules? Like your track is basically for like the same sort of, like you're allowed to build it and do a lot of stuff to it. Like, and Brian, man, I'm just glad you tuned in just in general, you know? Like, I actually had to reach past your shirt to grab this one, by the way. I didn't want to wear a company or a driver for tonight. Yeah, I'm willing to talk about payout, and I'll take a track side for it sometimes. Like, as much as I would like to say, oh, the mini stocks or front wheel drives, they should be getting 1,000 to win. It should be 200 to start. Like, I'd like to say that, but like, I understand there's a lot of forces at work, you know. Oh yeah, see, Corey, that's the whole thing, dude. Yeah, that's why. You know, we talked about this. You know, I talked about this with Bristol the first year we did it. Like, if you added up the entry fee and 2 pit passes for every car, Okay. Then it was like the number was, like our purse was like 20 grand, but we brought in $80,000 worth of money just based off that. Right. And I don't have a problem with that. Okay. I don't have a problem with having like, I don't have a problem with making money on our class. Okay. I don't. We, I won't argue with anybody that we should be the stars of the show. Okay. Do we put on, in my opinion, some of the best racing? Yeah, probably. Do we have the highest car counts? Probably. But I'm not going to tell anybody pretty much ever that we should have top billing and we should be the elite class. No, we are a support class. That's okay. I'm okay with a track making money on us 100%. I personally think every class a track should make money on. I don't believe a track should lose money. I don't believe they should make money hand over fist. I don't believe a track should lose money. Like, and that's why tracks run these destruction shows 1, 2, 3 times a year, because they make money hand over fist. They don't have to pay those guys, and then they can use that to subsidize the nights that they lose money paying for classes. Okay, I do not believe a racetrack should lose money, and I'm okay with them making money on the front wheel drives. But if you're making $100 plus a car, because that's the thing, if you're like at 75 to win, oh, Brady says doing quick math like you're doing is the reason that my local track they run compacts every weekend. Yeah, I don't know anybody who I don't know. I don't think I know any track that they're going to average less than 2 pit passes per front wheel drive guy or more. Like, I don't, I personally have never ran a race by myself. I have never went to a racetrack and bought a pit pass and had no one else buy a pit pass that was associated with it. Okay. I have been to a track where me and my dad were both racing, and my mom was the only other one, but she was there for both of us. So we averaged 1.5. Okay. However, I have also had nights that there was 10 to 12 people who bought a pit pass because of me. That is rare. It has happened. Okay. And I know a lot of people who go like Corey do, where they have 5 to 8 to 10 people with them. Or even they brought 10 people to watch them. Okay. Our class is saving racetracks. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'll say it again. I'll say it again. I will climb up this hill. I will stand on it. I will defend it till I stop breathing. Okay. There is a reason why tracks hate, like who have promoters, owners, and management who do not like front wheel drives, will run them constantly. I have had a promoter tell me to my face, reason that you're on the schedule every time we race is because I make money off you and I need that money to pay for other things. I have had a promoter tell me that. That was the promoter at a racetrack where we literally ran every single night. The track was open for years. I went back to back champ at that track. And we were supposed to run, I think, 32 nights one year and 35 nights the next. And if it wasn't for rainouts, we would have done exactly that. They were on Friday nights, and then they would run Sunday specials. And we were on the schedule for every single Friday and every single Sunday. No other track, no other class did that. Every other class had at least 7 to 10 nights off. Not us. And they took away our throwout nights. So if you weren't there every single night, good luck on points. Okay. Like that promoter straight up said, I'm doing it because you guys pay the bills. Okay. If a racetrack have Rick Young, who is, which by the way, Rick, I don't know if you heard it, but I gave props to Shady Bull and props to you for paying your compacts like you do. But this is straight from the owner's mouth of a racetrack. Compacts bring the most people with them to the pits. Bigger classes may only bring 2 people with them. If I drive a late model, a street stock, or a modified, or a sportsman, I pay the exact same price for a pit pass as a front wheel drive does. So front wheel drives are saving racetracks. If your racetrack, Brian says our track has done everything that they could and successfully got rid of all front wheel drives. If a racetrack is doing that, caveat for me is that where I'm from, front wheel drives and stuff are a lot bigger deal. Out west, like some of you guys out west, front wheel drives are a new thing and they're trying to gain traction, and it's kind of goofy the way that they're doing it. It's gonna take a minute to get there. Okay. But around here, if a track's not running front wheel drives, they're leaving a lot of money on the table. They are. Or I've seen this a bunch of times. They've either got someone trying to organize the front wheel drives or in charge of the front wheel drives or writing rules for front wheel drives, but absolutely no idea about our class whatsoever. Okay. Seen it countless times. They've got weird, goofy rules that like they're on their own. Okay. They're not getting cars. They can't get cars. Or, I just spent a bunch of time talking about how great Owasso is. Okay. Last year, if you ran a front wheel drive and you went to Owasso, you were running last. Don't care what time it is, you're running last. They never, ever put them in front of anybody else. The way they started out the year, they DQ'd a guy, and they said, "Oh, you've got this, and it's illegal." Well, at some point in the last few years, a rule specifically allowing that part, it was the rear trailing arms adjustable for tow. At some point, the rules that they used from Kalamazoo and from other tracks, that part got dropped. It was in there. So they said, nope, see, it's not in there, blah, 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 blah. Okay. They immediately outlawed a shit ton of front wheel. There was some backlash from it, and other people were like, yes, I'm not going over there. I was one. I'm like, I have them. I'm not going to go run there if they're illegal. I'm not changing them. A lot of people have said that. But the people that were in charge and some of the tech and stuff, things have changed now. One of the people who was in charge has told me to my face that they don't like front wheel drives. It was obvious they see that they didn't like front wheel drives. It was not hard to follow their track record to see they didn't care for our class, but we made them a lot of money, so they had to have us. Right? But because people were in charge who didn't know front wheel drives, who didn't know the rules, who didn't know the intent, who didn't know that, hey, this should have been in there, guys, it's not actually a big deal. It was this big thing. Okay. So this Awas was doing all these amazing things. They had some slip ups with the front wheel drives. So they started the year, the first race out, they pissed off a lot of front wheel drive guys. And then it keeps coming out. They would have to drop the B main or the C main because they timed out, because the late models went 2.5 hours because they couldn't run more than 1.5 laps at a time. Okay. Stuff like that. Like there was some certain things that they were doing, running last. Right. Wasn't great. Now, Owasso has different money behind them. So they didn't need our PIP-ass money. It helps, but, right? They still had a bunch of them. Now, all right, I do have to catch up to a couple of these comments because we're talking about this. So, by the way, if you guys are replying to someone, the way that my software works, I can't see that. So sometimes I'll see a random comment that I might say something about. And it's just because of the way that my comment section is structured. I can't tell that you're replying to something. So, or if I miss a comment that you're like, hey, why didn't you answer that? Or, you can re-ask it, just because I might think you're replying to someone that say it. So, Ms. Rick says, all these other tracks are just now catching on to as to why we run compacts most every week. Yeah. And this is part of that. Bud says, do rear wheel drives count for this? I don't know as far as that. As in Michigan, there's almost no tracks that run rear wheel drives. Almost none. The Midwest Series has a few that run rear wheel drives, but our mini stocks have kind of gone away. There's no weekly track that I know of in Michigan. Some of the dirt tracks, maybe, but I don't think there's any. Maybe Whittemore. Otherwise, I don't think, like, none of the tracks that I normally run, you're not allowed to run a rear wheel drive with front wheel drive stuff basically at all. So, and as Nick Failing says, I can count on one hand in 8 years the number of times I've ran with more than just my pit pass. I just try to pit near some friends. Yeah, for every Nick, you're not alone. I know some guys that just have one, but the norm is more than one pit pass. Like, and there's nothing wrong. So, and Brady's asking what I think the reasoning is. Do you think it's word of mouth? Basically, compact drivers are mostly blue collar. Why do I think that the front wheel drives have the most? Like, honestly, my opinion on why front wheel drives have the most, like, typically a weekly show, why front wheel drives bring more fans themselves or more pit passes themselves, right? I'm not saying they bring the majority of the fans. I'm saying why a front wheel drive guy might have 5 pit passes and 10 people sitting in the stands versus let's say a modified guy might have 2 pit passes and 3 in the stands, or none specifically in the stands. The casual race fan is most likely not there for us. I haven't met anybody yet who's like, yeah, man, I came just to watch the front wheel drives. I've talked to a bunch who like the front wheel drives now, or growing to like them, or now they're excited to watch them, but they won't go catch a race because it's front wheel drives, right? But they will if it's late models and stuff like that. The casual race fan, they're just coming to see everybody else. Front wheel drive guys, in my opinion, they're what used to be like the street stocks and the pure stocks and stuff. I am doing it, especially the guys running mid pack and back, or B main and back. The guys that are not spending a lot of money, that are just out there, that are having fun, they enjoy it. They don't have to win to enjoy it. They're there to have the time of their lives. They're doing it because they love it, and it is a hobby, and they want to get people involved. Like, man, you got to come to the racetrack, dude. We have a lot of fun. We all hang out, having fun. It's great. They're going to do the word of mouth, but they're so happy and proud of what they do and hanging out. They want people to come watch them. They have their families coming, their friends are coming. It is more of a group and a party for them. The guys in some of the higher classes, fans will be there because I'm here to put on a show. Like, they're not trying to necessarily bring in 10 fans, because for them, it's more business-like than some of the front drive guys. Now, there are absolutely exceptions to that rule. That is not me saying that late model guys don't try to bring people or promote or anything like that. Okay. But I definitely think it is more that they are trying, they are there to put on the show. Front wheel drive guys are there to help. Like, they're there to front drive guys are just more apt to want to show people versus being a part of the show. My opinion on a very broad stroke of that. Okay. I know some late model teams bring in, modified teams who bring in 30 people every weekend to sit in the grandstands. They have a fan club. Okay. I don't. especially with traveling. When I travel places, like when I race with the National Series or the 4 Series, especially if I'm not in Michigan, I'm not bringing anybody into the grandstands. If I race Spartan Speedway, yeah, I could have 5, 10, 15 people come hang out. I have friends who will come watch me at Spartan or come watch me at Springport or come watch me at Kalamazoo, and I've had bigger groups. I've had 20, 30 people show up a few times, but when I travel, I'm not bringing those people. Right. So very broad stroke. That's kind of what I think. So Gary says, my fault. I won every race last year. Guy said they wouldn't come back unless they cut front wheel drives. Yeah. But see, that's the thing with yours, Gary. And he says, so now we're single over cam rear wheel drives. Yeah. That's the thing too, though, is for you, like, it's that West Coast thing where you are one of front wheel drives and they don't know how to rule you guys. They don't know how to make rules for parity and all that. And so you can come in and be like, hey, we're doing this and clean house. And the problem is that instead of getting 10 front wheel drives, they have 10 rear wheel drives. And like the West Coast is, after sitting out there and talking to all you guys for that kind of stuff, was, yeah, it's odd. It's good to see it growing, but it's definitely like the Pro 4s and stuff. That's not a thing in the Midwest like it is out West. So yeah. Really says they even paid the C feature 400. Yeah, Wasso was paying. They never balked on pay. Whatever they said pay was going to be, they paid it. So they were doing some goofy stuff with the cars and stuff like that. But yeah, Northern Michigan Speedway runs front wheel drive and rear wheel drive together. Okay. I was in Florida for the 500 and went to some tracks to watch front wheel drive class, and they have 30 plus cars a week. It's a huge class down there. Yeah, there's some Florida tracks that have a lot. Apparently, Florida dirt tracks don't, or at least Paul was telling me that they don't. But the pavement tracks for sure do. Joe says, same thing in road course racing. Spec Miata and similar lower end classes bring the most cars and people every track I've been to. Yep. Yeah, as Rick says, they all join in and work on the car and have fun, makes them feel like contributing. Yeah, I see that a bunch too, where it's 100% too, where it's like, hey man, I need some help on the car. Like, you want to come hang out and work on the car? Whereas when you get into the higher levels, some street stock teams, modifieds, late models especially, you have crew guys. So you've got 4 guys that are doing the things you need them to do. You can't just bring somebody in to help out when they need to help out. Like for me, I have friends that come and help and hang out, and I can be like, hey man, you want to pull the tires off? I don't have a guy for that. I don't have a guy that when I come pulling in after practice, okay, I got one guy who jacks it up and tapes the tires and takes the temps and all that. Like when I come in, like I do all of that. So to have somebody else that I can be like, hey, you want to help out? I think it's easier to do that in our classes where you can have somebody just jump in versus, someone special. I akin it almost to ARCA versus NASCAR, where ARCA for a while, their pit crews, their pit stops were frozen, I think. So like you could have like lower, like it wasn't as big a deal to be as choreographed, right? Whereas you get to NASCAR and you're talking 0.4 of a second is the difference between first and 15th off pit road, right? So like ARCA, you could have somebody who's like, hey man, can you be the tire changer or the jack man? Yeah. Whereas in NASCAR, like I could never jump in and just be a jack man type of thing. So I think that's a big part of why that can happen. So, all right, Brady, I'm going to read the rest of these and then I'll come back to yours because that was a long one. I just want to check and make sure. Yes, Chris says, my wife loves to walk around and chat and visit and loves the weekly talks. She loves to watch me race, but more to chat, and she brings more friends than me. Yep. I know a few guys like that, guys and gals. 100% front drivers in the show. When I raced the 20 cars, Carlos, no 20 pure stocks, now cars. See, we only have like one track that is pure stocks, like 1 or 2. Otherwise, it's all street stocks. Like street stock is basically the although the Crown Vic class is coming, that cheap, affordable Crown Vic class where you can buy Crown Vics for like $1,500, until they make a rule, and then everything in a 200-mile radius gets snapped up, and all of a sudden you buy $5,000. Anyways, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Grundy County Speedway in Illinois pays out $115 for feature win, and we have about 20 plus cars a week in front drive. Elijah, what's it pay to start? All right, everybody who's watching, there's still about 40 of you. You're wherever you run normally, traveling series or racetrack, your home track. What's it pay to start? The A main. What's it pay to start, and what's it pay to win? Comment away. Just picking your brain. You're speaking on money for tracks. Someone I know was looking to buy a track. Main issue is that the sprint car late model shows didn't make money. In fact, they lost money. Around here, sprint late models don't bring more fans than weekly racing. 100% right. The average race fan is coming every weekend to watch. It's hard for the owners around here to pay sprints. Dang near impossible numbers, even with increasing the stands fee. Yeah, I don't envy track owners for that. 100%, because I'll be honest with you guys. If there was, I travel now because of this. Like the winter freeze, if I wasn't racing it, I would never go, right? Even if it was like I went and ran Eldora, okay? Having ran Eldora, I kind of want to go watch some of the big, like the Dream or the Million, or I want to go watch a very big show at Eldora, okay? I would not go to Eldora to watch a front drive show. I'd go to race one. I wouldn't go to watch one, right? But, they also do things a lot different, like Eldora does, right? But if I were to go to Butler runs sprints on a fairly regular basis, stuff like that. Like I am just as apt to go on a $15 to get in night that doesn't have sprint cars or doesn't have the touring series. I'm way more apt to go to that than I would be to go to a $35 show because the World Outlaws are here, or the Hell Tour's here, or something like that. You lose casual fans. You have big shows because they don't care to pay. If I go to Spartan every week, okay, just to use a local track. If I go to Spartan every week, I am covered in sawdust. I was working on the other side of this shed. But if I go to Spartan every week, right, they are likely going to run last few years modifieds, sportsmen, street stock, front wheel drives, occasionally legends, a few bigger late model shows. Okay. Those are kind of the big ones. If I'm going to every week and I'm watching modifieds down, say, and I'm paying $15 to get in, if I'm going there every week, I'm used to that. Those are the races that I want to watch. I want to race there at that. But if a big late model show is coming in, let's say, and I don't know this for certain, I'm just using these as an example, but like, let's say the Reveal the Hammer late model series is coming in there and it's going to be big names, but it's like $30 to watch. So it's double the price, right? And they're only running the late models and maybe the mods as a support class. Shit. That is not, in my opinion, that's not going to be a good enough race to justify twice the money for 2 out of 5 of the classes, right? If I'm going to go watch a 5-class regular night for $15, where I get to watch heats and features of 5 classes, possibly even, the front wheel drives are running, they've either got 2 classes or an A and a B, right? Modifieds might have a B main. Okay. So I can watch 6 features, 12, 15 heat races for $15. Or I can go watch probably no heat races and 2 features. Yeah, they're longer, but it's twice the money to get in. Like, you're gonna get the guys who are bananas for late models and or sprint cars and stuff. You're gonna lose the guys and gals who are paying $15 to get in, right? So I don't disagree that it would be really hard to justify some shows like that. If you can't break even, but the flip side of that is if you're buying a racetrack and you're going to have 4 late model shows or sprint car shows that lose money, that's what the Night of Destruction is for. I am just fine with racetracks having Nights of Destruction that don't showcase local racing. I would like them to run, even if it's us, even if it's front wheel drives, run us before the stuff that screws the track up. Let us show them what a regular night of racing can be. Cool. Hey, if you thought that was cool, come back, But Spartan Speedway, Oregon Oil Speedway, can seat, I would say 7,000 people or so. They're maybe putting 12 to 1,500 people in the grandstands on a regular night. Okay. They're filling every single seat for a Night of Destruction. They're going to sell 6,000 more tickets. Okay. Even at $10 or $15 a ticket, that's 60 to 90 grand just in ticket sales. Okay. That $60,000 could be $10,000 6 times for the extra purse to pay a late model show or to pay a sprint car show or, something like that. If it's a night that they're going to lose 10 grand, yeah, that Night of Destruction show is paying for that, right? And we're not even talking the extra revenue from concessions and all of that. Like there's additional revenue on those Nights of Destruction, but just the bump in attendance is all I'm talking, that extra money. We're going to assume that, the lights and insurance and food costs and all that is the same for those first 1,500 people as it is a regular night, pit pass versus payout and stuff. We're going to assume all of that is still kind of a break even, but the extra 6,000 fans is where you're getting that extra money. Now, can they always count on that? No, but it can help. That's why I personally, if a racetrack runs one of those in a month, I want racetracks to make money. I want racetracks to succeed. I personally don't believe that I don't want to see any racetracks closed. I really don't. I don't believe all of them deserve to be open sometimes, to be honest. And I believe, like here in Michigan, if we lost 1 or 2 tracks, it wouldn't be the end of the world, in the fact that we still have a dozen other ones, right? There are some places where, there might be a racetrack where they're the only one. Like when you start heading out west, where they're the only ones in a 15-hour radius, protect them at all costs, right? Here in Michigan, if I put a pin in my house and I have a magic 1.5-hour driving string that if I spin it, I can drive an hour and a half in a direction, I can hit like a dozen racetracks. Okay. If 1 or 2 of those wasn't racing in Michigan is still super strong, so I don't want any of them to close, but if 1 or 2 of them did, racing would still survive. Racing would still be strong. Okay. So I want these tracks to succeed. I want them to continue. If bashing some stuff up, tearing some stuff up, like gets the bills paid, awesome. People want to be entertained, and you might be able to convert some of those crash and bash people into race fans. They might give you a chance otherwise. So, yeah, and I don't disagree. Dan says problem with run one a month, they aren't as special and will become redundant, and attendance will drop compared to what they get a couple times a year. I don't disagree with that either. I don't have the magic formula of how often they run them, but I am 100% okay with racetracks doing other events to bring extra income in for that reason. Okay. You're not, our Sunday shows at Spartan are triple the attendance or more. The figure 8 races and stuff like that, they bring in a lot more people, 100%. And I'm fine with that. Like 100%. So Rick says, with Shady Bowl, we never raise the general admission price or pit pass price, no matter who races or what series comes in. We want all of our loyal fans plus the big ones for the big race. Love it, Rick. Love it. I'll be honest with you, Rick. Okay, Rick, I'm gonna get with you. Maybe not for a minute, but we're gonna have Rick come on here. By the way, Rick's gonna be one of our guests. I'm gonna try to get some track promoters, some series promoters, stuff like that. Now we might ask some hard hitting questions, okay? But I'm gonna have Rick on at some point here. Rick does a lot of really good things with Shady Bowl. I love running Shady Bowl. Just I really like that track. It's really neat. So yeah. But that's some real, honestly, the best trailer race I've ever seen was at Shady Bowl Speedway, by the way. I don't know, Rick, I don't know if you were involved with Shady Bowl then. I don't know how long you've owned Shady Bowl. It would have been, I don't even know what year it would have been. It'd have been it'd have been 07, 08, maybe. Because I was racing. But anyways, I went with my sister and I caught the last like 5 laps of the modified race. We caught the compact race, which at the time was crazy because they were supposed to be like stock, but all these guys were just like sat straight on the ground, bouncing around as crazy. I caught that race and then the trailer race, and the trailer race alone was worth the price of admission. It was such a good trailer race. So yeah, like I could talk for the next hour about that trailer race. The whole reason I started racing is because my wife and I went and watched when we first moved here. $10 piece to get in and watch 7 or 8 classes. Got us both hooked. Yeah, yeah. Been there's an owner for 10 years. Okay, so this would have been before you owned it then, because it was within the first year or two of me racing Rick. So it would have been 08 or I think it was 07 or 08. I would have to ask my sister because she was living with my grandparents at the time. But I had started racing, so I started in 07. So probably right before your time. So as owner. So yeah. Yeah, Galesburg runs 4 a year, and you can't even walk in the place at 6 p.m. They packed that place. Dude, Kalamazoo's destruction shows are awesome. Galesburg destruction shows are awesome. The school bus races. Spartan even does a pretty good at it. Spartans like school buses don't tear them up as much and stuff like that. But yeah, so and yeah, I want to comment. I want to talk about, or I'm going to look at some of these where you guys were talking about what it pays to win and start at your tracks. Let's go through some of these. Okay, so I just missed this one. I'm not going to name the track. We're just going to mention the pay. 30 to start, 150 to win, $30 pit pass with no entry, 50 to start, 300 to win. It costs 50 to race, 50 to start, and 5 more for starting heat race, so 55. And then yeah, Brian's 25 to start, 100 to win. And then this one with VCTS is 350 to win, 125 to start. Does not include contingency money. Contingency money and VCTS is crazy. And they have a lot of sponsors. A lot of their races are 500 or 1,000 to win too. I know the National Series. I think every race this year, the National Series is 1,000 to win, 150 to start, or 200 to start. And then this one's 35 to start, 75 to win. We're getting like that one's at least closer. 35. Guys, that's sawdust. I'm telling you guys. I got new glasses coming. I got them ordered. I tried to fix these. I tried hot glue 2 or 3 times. I tried the epoxy that I use in some of my stuff. Didn't work. None of that helped. And then I used a soldering iron to like plastic weld it together. That didn't work. So now I just try to be really careful. So yeah. And Chris says, I went to a 2-day show in an indoor, $75 entry each day with parking, and won both days. Got no money, and it was a 6-hour round trip. 2 really nice $2 to win trophies. Yep. So yeah, so there's some of the start money in that. So and Kzoo's 300 to win, 100 to start. The B is 200 with 75 to start, and the C is 100 with 60 to start. Yeah. Yeah, we could do a show just on pay. I would be really curious on that. Maybe I'll make a poll one day what it pays to start and win at your racetrack. I will tell you guys and gals, if you're not happy with the pay, okay, we talked about it a bit ago. It's a conversation you can have, and it's not inherently negative to have a conversation about pay. but make sure that you have some comparables. Make sure that you can say, these tracks within this radius are all paying this. We have this kind of car count. I believe, and listen, don't bullshit either. If you have, I know a few people that are, well, if you did this, there'd be 10 extra cars. I've talked to 10 drivers and they would all show up. No, you didn't. They didn't talk to 10 people at all. They didn't talk to anybody. Nobody's saying that. Okay. Don't BS. Don't exaggerate. Don't lie. Okay. If you talk to 5 guys that would race there, so be like, hey, I'm going to bring this up. Comment on it. Okay. Things like that. Right. But have a conversation like, hey, like, reach out to the track. What would it take to get paid more? Like, we have this many cars. This track's paying this, I'm still, in Chris's case, he's still going to come run for $10 to start. But you can have that conversation with the racetrack. Hey, what would it take to be 20 to start, 100 to win? Right? Like, if you can have that conversation where you're being respectful and you're not just flying off the handle, this place is so stupid, and the owner's just making money, hand over fist and pocketing it. And maybe they are, but it's not the way to comment about it, So don't be afraid to have that conversation. Just make sure you're doing it like you're talking to HR, right? So that's my advice on that one. So, yeah. Guys and gals, we've been doing this for 2.5 hours, and I honestly expected tonight's show to be about 30 to 40 minutes long. I'm not going to lie. I didn't think it would go this long. I definitely didn't think we'd still have 35 people hanging out. It just goes to show that sometimes these topics need to be talked about a little bit in a constructive manner. Okay. Like, I think that should be tonight's lesson, is that nobody, no track, no series, no driver, no owner, no promoter should be above reproach, but the approach should come in a respectful way. Okay. If you have a track or a series that is doing something that needs talked about, you should be allowed to talk about it, but just try to do it in the most respectful way you can. That is how you get heard. Not flying off the handle, not calling names, not cussing, not flinging accusations, not trying to tell one side of the story only. You can approach almost any subject in a respectful way. It doesn't even have to be positive. It just has to be respectful. And if you can do things from a respectful way, you are going to get heard. Okay. I'm going to go live tomorrow in the subscriber group, and I'm going to tell you guys a way that I very recently talked to some people about a very negative issue in kind of a negative way, but I did it as respectfully as I could. And at least according to them later, they appreciated the way that I approached it, and they could understand every side that I was talking about. And I left seeing things from their side better. Okay. I'll talk about that in the subscriber group tomorrow. That one, we're going to name some names and stuff. I don't want to do that here. So, yeah. Thank you all for being here. Let me know what you think. Do you like this camera angle? I'm going to try to get the microphone where it's like on a stand like I had downstairs so you can see the flag and stuff. So we're gonna move the microphone a little bit more, but what do you think of the lens? What do you think of the angle? It's a lot. Like there's a lot of space. Like we can do more. But this will allow me to put some different decorations up behind us, stuff like that. I like it. So yeah, let me know what you think. Go check out the Air Motive video from PRI that we posted yesterday. I'm going to try to upload another one tonight for tomorrow from another interview from PRI. I am working on editing some stuff from MPMC, a few other things. So we'll have some more videos coming soon. Tomorrow, we're working on the electrical for the pole barn. Friday, Saturday, electrical for the pole barn. My goal is maybe next Tuesday I'll have that thing. Well, no, next week I won't have the internet stuff out there. So in 2 Tuesdays, maybe we can do a tech video from in there. So yeah. Thank you all for being here tonight. If you have not already, hit the like button for me. That is the only thing I ask you guys to do. I appreciate you all immensely. I love you all. Thank you for being here. Keep it positive. Keep it respectful if you have to be negative. See y'all soon.